Why do Hollywood films look like that? And how come my film doesn't look as good? I'm sure you've asked yourself this question. I know I have. So what I'm going to do today is try to analyze a bunch of Hollywood films and try to realize what makes them actually look good and try to break them down and use these elements to put them in our own films to make them look better. First, let's look at last year's Oscar winner for Best Cinematography, Mank. Mank will be good to look at first because it's in black and white, which removes all aspects of color, so we can just examine how it is shot, which includes lighting, camera angle, and composition. Now, why does this shot objectively look good? Let's analyze it. The lighting in this shot is coming from the character's left, creating stark contrast on the character's face, which provides depth and shape to the face. We could also see that the shadow side of his face is towards the camera. This is seen in many cinematic films, and I believe this tip can help make any shot look just a little better. When we look at old films, it looks very flat because the lights were generally right next to the camera. So next time you're lighting your subject, pay attention to where the light is placed, and try to make sure it's on the other side of the line so that the shadow side of the character's face is towards the camera. Now, let's talk about composition. This shot is a close-up on our character. He takes up the whole frame, which gives him importance. This also adds detail and crispiness. Another thing we could see in this shot is the use of a blurry background or depth of field. A lot of cinematic films use a shallower depth of field. For example, when we look at something less cinematic, like a network TV show or soap opera, we can see that depth of field is less commonly used. This is another shot from Mank. Here we can see the use of contrast to show importance. The use of the dark background against her white hair brings her out of the frame. Again, we could also see that the shadow side of her face is towards the camera. The background is blurry, and there is attention to where the subject is placed in the frame. Now let's look at something a little more colorful. A common trend that is seen in many good-looking films is the two-color rule. In this shot, for example, the two main colors are red and blue. This can be used to give importance to the colors in your film. This can also create contrast between the background and the character, similar to the dark versus light that we just talked about. Color is used a lot in La La Land and other films. Be sure to keep color in mind in your own films. To recap, let's go over everything that we've learned so far. The first tip we talked about today is to use lights to shape your subject. You can move the lights around your scene to try to get the most dynamic and best looking shot. Speaking of lighting, another quick tip is to put the shadow side of the character's face towards the camera. Also, when framing your shot, try to pay attention to where the subject is placed because different framings can mean different things. To get a more cinematic look, try to use a shallower depth of field. This means opening the aperture and having a more blurry background. Another tip to make your subject pop is to use contrast. Try to put bright things on dark backgrounds or dark things on bright backgrounds. Another way to do this is by using color. When setting up your shot, try to have one dominant color and one color for support or harmony. You can definitely go over this two-color rule, but try to keep a common theme. One YouTube video that came out while I was actually editing this puts all these tips together and tries to recreate famous Hollywood shots. This video is really helpful and inspiring to watch because it shows how you can make something look good and Hollywood level with a small budget and some creative DIY skills. I would definitely say to go give it a watch. For those watching on YouTube, I'll put the link in the description. In the end, I hope you've learned something today. I know I've learned a lot of tips that I did not know before, and I'll definitely be using these tips in the future. I've been Jackson Yeager, and thank you for watching.